The first thing I saw in the recording was my wife standing in my neighbor's driveway at 2:13 in the morning. She was barefoot. She was crying. And she was holding a small black bag that I had never seen before. I watched the video 3 times before I could even breathe normally. Because the man standing in front of her wasn't a stranger. It was my older brother. The same brother who had not spoken to me in almost 7 years. The same brother who had disappeared from our family after accusing me of stealing something I never touched. And the strangest part? My wife looked terrified of him. Not surprised, not angry, terrified. I thought I knew my family. I thought I knew my marriage. But that 47-second recording from my neighbor's security camera showed me that the people closest to me had been hiding something for years, and the truth was much worse than betrayal. It started on an ordinary Tuesday morning. My name is Daniel Harper. I was 42 years old, and for most of my adult life, I believed I was the kind of man who had everything figured out. Not because I was rich. I wasn't. I owned a small construction company that I built from nothing, working 12-hour days, sometimes sleeping in my office when we had deadlines. But I had a house, a wife, a daughter, and a quiet life. At least, that's what I believed. My wife, Emily, was 39. She was the kind of person everyone loved immediately. She remembered birthdays. She brought food to sick neighbors. She volunteered at our daughter's school. People often told me, "Daniel, you're lucky. Women like Emily are rare." And I believed them. But Emily had one weakness that I knew about. She hated conflict. She would rather carry a painful secret alone than hurt someone with the truth. At the time, I thought that made her kind. Later, I would wonder if that was the reason everything fell apart. Our daughter Lily was 16. She was smart, stubborn, and had inherited my habit of questioning everything. She was also the only person in the house who noticed when something felt wrong. "Dad," she told me one evening while we were washing dishes, "Mom has been acting weird lately." I laughed. "Weird how?" She shrugged, drying a plate. "Like she's waiting for something bad to happen." I looked at her and smiled. "You're 16. Everyone looks suspicious at 16. She didn't smile back. "No, I'm serious." I wanted to believe she was just being dramatic, because the alternative meant admitting that maybe I had stopped paying attention. The first warning sign came 3 weeks before the video. Emily started leaving the house at strange times. At first, I didn't think much about it. She said she was helping her friend Sarah with a family problem. Then it became running errands. Then just needing some air. The explanations were always simple. Too simple. One night I came home early from work and found her sitting alone in the dark living room. No television, no music, just silence. When I turned on the light, she quickly wiped her face. "Are you okay?" I asked. She smiled too fast. "Of course." That answer bothered me. Not because she said she was okay, because she said it before I finished asking. "Emily, did something happen?" She looked at me for a few seconds, and for a moment I thought she was going to tell me everything. But then she looked away. "No, I'm just tired." Another small lie. Another thing I ignored. Because sometimes people don't ignore the truth because they are blind. Sometimes they ignore it because they are afraid of what happens after they see it. A few days later, my neighbor Mark knocked on my door. Mark Collins was 63 and lived alone next door. He was a retired police officer, the type of man who noticed everything. He knew when someone parked in front of my house. He knew when my trash cans were missing. He even knew when my daughter came home late. Normally, I found it annoying. That day, it saved me. "Daniel," he said, holding his phone tightly, "I need you to watch something." I smiled awkwardly. Should I be worried? He didn't answer. That was when I knew I should be. Mark looked uncomfortable. Not angry. Not judgmental. Uncomfortable. "I caught something on my camera last night." About what? He hesitated. About your wife. My stomach tightened. What about her? He looked down at his phone. I wasn't sure if I should show you. That sentence was worse than anything he could have said, because if it was nothing, he would have shown me immediately. I took the phone. The video began at 2:11 a.m. The image was grainy but clear enough. My driveway, my street, my neighbor's front yard. Then Emily appeared. She walked slowly toward Mark's house. She kept looking behind her, like she was afraid someone was following. Then another figure entered the frame. A man. Tall. Wearing a dark jacket. At first I didn't recognize him. Then he turned toward the camera, and my entire body went cold. Impossible, I whispered. Mark looked at me carefully. You know him? I couldn't answer, because the man on the screen was my brother, Michael. My brother who everyone thought had left the state. My brother who my parents refused to mention after our father died. My brother who I had not seen since the night he accused me of stealing our father's inheritance. 7 years ago. 7 years of silence. 7 years of believing he hated me. But there he was, standing in front of my wife, at 2 a.m. I watched as Michael said something. Emily stepped back. Then she opened the black bag. My hands started shaking. What is she doing? Mark asked. I didn't respond, because I had no idea. Emily pulled out an envelope. Michael grabbed it. Then something happened that made my blood run cold. My brother looked directly at the camera, almost like he knew he was being recorded. Then he said something. The microphone was weak. But when Mark increased the volume, we heard it. 3 words. 3 words that changed everything. Ask your husband. The screen went black. And suddenly, the biggest question wasn't why my wife was meeting my brother. It was something much worse. What did Michael know about me that I didn't even know myself? I drove home that night without turning on the radio. Normally, silence bothered me. I hated being alone with my thoughts because my thoughts had a way of finding problems I tried to ignore. But that night, I didn't need silence to think. My mind was already screaming. My wife had met my brother in the middle of the night. She had given him an envelope. And my brother, the man who vanished from my life 7 years ago, had looked directly into a security camera and told me, ask your husband. Not ask Daniel. Not ask my brother. Ask your husband. As if he knew Emily had been hiding something from me. As if he knew there was a part of my own life that I had forgotten. Or worse, a part of my life that someone had stolen from me. When I opened the front door, I expected Emily to be asleep. Instead, she was sitting at the kitchen table. The lights were off except for the small lamp above the counter. She looked up, and the second she saw my face, I knew she already understood something was wrong. Daniel? I didn't answer immediately. I just stared at her. There are moments in life when a person's reaction tells you more than their words. A guilty person looks away. An innocent person gets angry. But Emily? Emily looked scared. Not confused. Not offended. Scared. Where were you? I asked. Her expression changed slightly. I told you, I was helping Sarah. I placed my phone on the table. I didn't show her the video yet. I wanted to see if she would tell me the truth on her own. Emily, who is Michael? The color disappeared from her face. Just for a second. But I saw it. And that second destroyed something inside me, because I had spent 7 years believing my wife had never met my brother. Why are you asking me that? She whispered. I leaned forward. Because I saw you with him. The room became completely silent. I waited for an explanation. A mistake. A misunderstanding. Anything. But Emily just closed her eyes. And that scared me more than anger would have. Daniel. No. I shook my head. Don't say my name like that. Just tell me the truth. She looked at the floor. I didn't want you to find out this way. Those words hit harder than any confession because they meant one thing. She knew. She had been keeping something from me. How long? I asked. She didn't answer. How long have you been talking to my brother? 6 months. 6 months. My wife had been secretly communicating with the man who destroyed my family for 6 months. And I had been sitting at the dinner table every night thinking we were happy. Why? Emily swallowed. Because he contacted me. I laughed quietly. Not because it was funny, because sometimes pain comes out sounding like disbelief. My brother disappeared for 7 years and suddenly contacts my wife? Yes. And you thought maybe telling me would be a bad idea? Her eyes filled with tears. I thought you would do exactly what you're doing now. What does that mean? That you would see him as the enemy before hearing what he had to say. I stood up. And you don't? Emily looked at me. No. That answer shocked me, because after everything, she still wasn't afraid to defend him. Why are you protecting him? I'm not protecting him. Then what are you doing? She hesitated, and then she said something that changed the direction of the entire conversation. I'm protecting you. I stared at her. From the moment those words left her mouth, I knew this wasn't about an affair. It was something else. Something older. Something buried. But before I could ask another question, my daughter Lily walked into the kitchen. She froze when she saw our faces. What happened? Neither of us answered. She looked between us. Then she noticed my phone on the table. Is this about Mom? My heart dropped. What did you say? Lily immediately looked nervous. Nothing. No. You said Mom. Why would you think this is about her? She looked away. And that was when I realized something terrifying. I wasn't the only person in my house who knew there was a secret. Lily. She sighed. I saw her meeting someone last month. Emily stood up. Lily. No, Mom. He deserves to know. I looked at my daughter. Who did you see? She hesitated. Uncle Michael. The room went cold. My own daughter knew. My wife knew. Everyone knew except me. And suddenly, I wasn't just questioning my marriage. I was questioning my entire family. What happened between you and Uncle Michael? Lily asked quietly. I looked at Emily. She looked broken. I can explain. Then explain. She sat down. But before she could speak, someone knocked on the door. 3 slow knocks. Everyone in the room froze, because nobody was expected. I walked toward the entrance. When I opened the door, there was nobody there. Only a small brown envelope lying on the doorstep. My name was written on it. Not printed. Written by hand. I picked it up. My fingers immediately recognized the handwriting. Because I had seen it thousands of times as a child, it was my father's handwriting. The problem was, my father had been dead for 7 years. I opened the envelope. Inside was one photograph, a photograph of my father, my brother Michael, and me. But the date written on the back made my stomach turn. It was taken 3 days after my father's funeral. Impossible. I flipped the picture over, and underneath the date was a sentence that made me realize my brother wasn't trying to destroy my life. He was trying to reveal who had already destroyed it. The message said, Daniel, if you are reading this, then Emily finally decided you were ready to know the truth. I stopped breathing, because the next line wasn't from my brother. It was from my father. Your brother did not steal the inheritance. My hands started shaking. 7 years ago, my entire family had collapsed because of one accusation. My father died. The inheritance disappeared. Michael blamed me. I blamed him. And we never spoke again. But now, after 7 years, a letter was telling me something impossible. I had been angry at the wrong person. I kept reading. My sons. Both of you were lied to. I looked up at Emily. She was crying. Not because she was caught. Because she knew what was coming. What did you know? I whispered. She covered her mouth. And then she said the one sentence I never expected to hear. Daniel, your father didn't leave the money to you. A strange calm came over me, the kind of calm people feel right before their world breaks apart. Then who did he leave it to? Emily looked at me, and for the first time in 7 years I saw real fear in her eyes. He left everything to a person you don't even know exists. I looked back at the photograph, at my father's handwriting, at my brother's name, at the secret that had been hidden from me. And then my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I had never seen before. I almost ignored it. But then I answered. A man's voice spoke, a voice I recognized immediately. Michael. Daniel, listen carefully. I didn't say anything, because I was too angry, too confused, too hurt. Then he said, the person who stole our father's inheritance has been living closer to you than you think. I looked at Emily. She looked back at me. And for the first time in my marriage, I wondered if my wife had been hiding a secret from me, or if she had been trying to protect me from one. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry. Anger would have been easier. I stayed awake because my entire understanding of my life had collapsed in a few hours. For 7 years, I believed my brother betrayed me. I believed Michael stole what belonged to our family. I believed he was the reason my father died with unfinished business between his sons. But now I was sitting in my living room, holding a photograph that should not exist, listening to my brother's voice through the phone, and realizing one terrifying possibility. I had spent 7 years hating the wrong person. Daniel, Michael said through the phone, you need to leave the house. I looked at Emily. She looked away. That hurt more than anything, because if she had screamed, if she had defended herself, if she had lied again, maybe I could have been angry. But she didn't. She looked guilty. Why? I asked. Because whoever hid the truth from us knows you found out. A cold feeling moved through my body. What are you talking about? There was a pause. Then Michael answered. Dad's lawyer didn't disappear after the funeral by accident. I froze. What lawyer? Exactly. I heard the pain in his voice, the same pain I had carried for years. The night Dad died, he left instructions with his attorney. The inheritance was supposed to be divided differently than we thought. But before the documents were finalized, someone changed everything. I looked at Emily. Who? Michael didn't answer immediately, and that silence told me the truth was going to hurt. Your mother. My heart stopped. My mother had died 2 years after my father. She had always been the person who held our family together, the woman who cooked dinner every night, the woman who cried when Michael left, the woman who told me, one day your brother will understand. But according to my brother, she was the person who destroyed everything. That's impossible, I whispered. I said the same thing. Michael's voice became quieter, until I found the documents. I looked at the photograph again. My father, me, Michael. 3 people who loved each other once. 3 people destroyed by a secret. Where are you? An old storage unit Dad rented before he died. I stood up. I'm coming. Emily immediately grabbed my arm. Daniel, wait. I pulled away. Not aggressively. Just enough. Enough to show her that something between us had changed. How long did you know? She looked down. I found out 5 months ago. 5 months. Another secret. Another piece of my life happening without me. Why didn't you tell me? Her eyes filled with tears. Because I found the documents by accident. What documents? The ones proving Michael didn't steal anything. The room became silent. Then why protect him? Emily wiped her face. Because I realized the person who framed him was still trying to keep the truth hidden. I stared at her. And you thought the best plan was to secretly meet my brother? No. She shook her head. I thought I could fix it before you got hurt. That was Emily's weakness. The thing I had always loved about her. And the thing that had nearly destroyed us. She tried to carry every burden alone, even when carrying it meant lying to the people she loved. Before I left, Lily walked toward me. Dad. I turned around. I'm sorry. For what? She hesitated. For knowing something was wrong and not telling you. I hugged my daughter. But even while holding her, I realized something painful. Secrets don't begin with one big lie. They begin with small decisions people make because they think they are protecting someone. Then those small decisions become walls. And eventually, everyone is trapped behind them. The storage unit was 30 minutes away. When I arrived, Michael was standing outside. Older than I remembered. Tired. Not the villain I had imagined for 7 years. Just a broken man. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "You look angry." I laughed. "I am." He nodded. "Good. That surprised me. You're happy I'm angry?" "No." He looked at the ground. "I'm happy you're finally angry at the truth." Inside the storage unit were boxes filled with my father's belongings, old clothes, documents, photos, and one locked metal case. Michael opened it. Inside were papers, bank records, letters, and a video recorder. My father's old camera. "I found this 6 months ago," Michael said. "Why didn't you show me?" He looked at me. "Because I wasn't sure you would believe me." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. Because 7 years earlier, I hadn't believed him either. We watched the video. My father appeared on the screen. Older, sick, but clear. "My sons," he said. I felt my chest tighten. "I don't know when you will see this, but if you are watching, then something went wrong." My father took a deep breath. "The inheritance was never meant to create a fight between you." He explained everything. The money, the property, the company. But then came the part nobody expected. My father had discovered that someone had been secretly taking money from the family business for years. Not Michael, not me. Someone else. Someone with access. Someone trusted. The camera showed my father looking directly forward. "I know who did it." My hands tightened. Then he said the name. The person responsible wasn't my mother. It wasn't Michael. It wasn't Emily. It was someone I had never suspected. My father's business partner. Richard Blake. The man who had attended my father's funeral. The man who had comforted our family. The man who later advised me to sell my father's company because it was too much responsibility. He had created the conflict between me and Michael. He had altered documents. He had made us fight because divided families are easier to control. But there was one more detail. The detail that broke me. My father had known. He knew Richard was stealing, but he didn't expose him immediately. Because Richard had threatened my family. If my father went to the police, Richard would destroy everything. So my father made a backup plan. He hid the evidence. And he trusted the one person nobody would suspect. Michael. My brother wasn't my enemy. He was protecting the truth. 3 days later, Richard Blake was arrested. The evidence was undeniable. The money, the documents, the recordings, everything. But justice didn't magically repair 7 years. Michael and I still had lost time. My father was still gone. My family had still been broken. Some things cannot be returned. Some apologies arrive too late, but they can still matter. A month later, Michael came to my house for dinner. The first time in 7 years. Lily talked about school. Emily cooked too much food because she was nervous, and Michael and I sat quietly for a while. Finally, he said, "I hated you for a long time." I nodded. "I hated you too." He smiled slightly. "Turns out we were both wrong." I looked at my family around the table, and I realized something. The biggest betrayal wasn't always the person who lied. Sometimes the biggest betrayal was allowing anger to become more important than the people you loved. Emily never betrayed me with another man. She betrayed my trust by trying to protect me without letting me choose. Michael never betrayed our family. He disappeared because he was broken and believed nobody would listen, and I wasn't innocent either, because I was so certain I knew the truth that I stopped looking for it. Years later, I still have the security camera recordings saved, not because I want to remember the pain, because I want to remember the moment everything changed. The moment I learned that the people closest to us can hurt us without wanting to. And sometimes the person we blame for destroying our life is the same person who is trying to save it. Sometimes the truth doesn't arrive to punish us. Sometimes it arrives to show us how much time we wasted believing the wrong story. People are complicated. They make mistakes. They hide things because they are afraid. They stay silent because they think they are protecting someone. But silence has a price. Because when we don't talk, other people fill the empty spaces with their own version of the truth. And sometimes the person standing farthest away from us is not our enemy. Sometimes they are the person who has been waiting the longest for us to finally listen. What would you have done if you received a security camera recording that revealed your family had been hiding a 7-year-old secret? Was Emily wrong for keeping the truth from Daniel, even if she thought she was protecting him? Was Michael a victim, or should he have fought harder to reveal the truth? Share your opinion in the comments. I want to know how you would have handled this situation.